Okay, good. We want good sound, good sound. Welcome to the Hoboken Historical Museum. You just had some pretty good food, so we're making you sing for your supper. You have to hear the stories, and we're calling this a symposium on immigration. And we are so thankful for the county for putting this program together. There will be 3 presenters. They will each have a unique story, and we can ask questions at the end of all 3, but not during their program. And this was a program that was generously supported by Hudson County Office of Cultural and Heritage Affairs. And we have Gina Hewling here. Let's give a big hand to Gina Hewlings. That's with an S, right? Okay, got it. And to say a few words about the background on this program, we're going to ask Matthew Caravante to come on up. He is really the person who reached out to us and said, hey, do you guys want to work on something together? That was a couple months ago, and then it just kind of happened. So here we are. Say hi to Matthew. Give him a warm applause.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Bob, for all the support in doing this. We love the Hoboken Historical Museum. It's such an amazing place. We want everybody to know about it. So yes, my name is Matt Carinanti. I'm the Program Development Specialist with the Hudson County Office of Cultural and Heritage Affairs / Tourism Development. We received a grant from the New Jersey Historical Commission to put on a series of events, and we did a few podcasts concerning immigration in Hudson County. So we put together a program called Hudson County and Immigration, the Story of America. And this is the 3rd panel event we've had. Last Saturday was one at Ellis Island, which dealt with more of a historical story for immigration. And the one prior to that was at the Apple Tree House in Jersey City, which kind of ran through historical through more current issues. Tonight's a little more current. We have some very exciting speakers who shared some of their delicious foods of their heritage, which was really great. So I don't want to say much more. I want to thank again Bob and the Hoboken Museum crew for their help with this. And I'm going to turn it back over to Bob, who is the moderator for this evening's event. So again, thank you for coming. Wait, actually. These are very important to us. If you can fill these out, you don't need to take them with you. Just take the QR code and scan them, and please fill out the form. It's from the Arts Council. It goes back to the state and lets them know what a great time you're having at these events and that we should do more of them. So please take a few minutes to complete it. It's really important to us and for all the programming throughout New Jersey. So without further ado, thanks a lot. And here's Bob.
So when we were putting this together, I think it took me 10 minutes to think of 3 people who would be good to present. And I reached out to them immediately. And I think we had this program settled in 24 hours. And that was kind of cool. And then I went on to other things and sort of forgot about it and then realized, God, we got to do it. So thinking about immigration in Hudson County, many times we know we're near Ellis Island, the Golden Door, all those kind of themes are with us. But I realized that in the immigration story in Hudson County is happening every day. And when you look at different statistics for people who are first generation, who immigrated here, and you see that, I hope I have it right, about 60% of the people in Hudson County are coming from different countries. And I wrote it down quickly. East India is 10%, Mexico 10%, Guatemala 10%, El Salvador, Ecuador, and the Philippines all 10%. There's a lot of way to look at statistics, but that's like almost 60% of our population. And I think one of the great joys for me is meeting people from different cultures. And we're all curious. And many times the first, it's kind of cursory, kind of basic, but the first introduction is through, food. So we thought it was kind of interesting to make tonight kind of a food window to get to know people. And, hopefully it goes beyond a restaurant experience. And for me, it surely does. So I'm so happy we are doing this. The museum has done several exhibits on immigration, but it's always been more the Ellis Island experience. And we know Ellis Island has been closed for, many, many years. And people are always interested in tracing that history, but why not look at what's happening right now? So I would say today is pretty much about that. So we have 3 speakers, and I'm going to read a little introduction for each of them, and then they'll come up and give their speak. We do have visuals to complement their story, and hopefully that all goes well, and I'm sure it will. I want to thank Rand Hoppe being our engineer and making things happen, and we'll applaud him later. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, he's been great. So our first presenter is Patricia Trixie Ballesteros. She's a first-generation American, arrived in the U.S. from Manila, Philippines on an H-2B visa. Is that right? 2B? Okay, I know my visas. And she came to work in Florida, in a Florida hotel. When she and other legal immigrants from the Philippines were cheated out of their wages, they filed a successful labor class action suit against the hotel and their agents, which became known as the Florida 15 human trafficking case. Patricia now works as a nanny in Hudson County, and I know her as a kick-ass nanny, but she has a really interesting story. So let's welcome Trixie.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Trixie, and it's an honor actually to stand in front of you and share my immigration story. But first, I would like to thank the Hudson County Office of Cultural Heritage Affairs, Tourism and Development, and in partnership, of course, with the Hoboken Museum, especially Bob. It's for creating this environment, where we can openly and freely talk about immigration topics, immigration stories, and for making Hudson County, like Hoboken and Jersey City and other towns, a safe haven for immigrants. And for me personally, I've always wanted to shine light on immigration stories, how unique they are, the struggles, and the unique stories of each and every immigrants that come here in America. And just like the program, this is the story of America. Sorry if I have my cheat sheets with me. And that's what I did. I chased after my American dream. Like most of the immigrants here, it's a cliche. The American dream is a cliche, but it is what it is, and that's me. I chased my American dream. And in the Philippines, I am the eldest of 3 siblings. We were fairly off in the Philippines, I might say. You would call it middle class family. We had my parents had several businesses. We went to private schools. We had cars, and up until my parents' business plummeted, bankrupt, boom, zero, nothing. We had no savings, nothing, no cars, and then little to our knowledge, our house was already down for foreclosure. And then my dad passed away, unfortunately, leaving me to support my mom, to carry the burden, to support the family, just to basically keep our family afloat, to survive. And Philippines, as you know, is like one of the third world countries. So economy in the Philippines is really bad. And if you want out, the only way for you to do it is to go out of the country. And at the time, I just gave birth to my son. I had a baby boy. And it was so hard for me to leave my son at the time. Whew. Okay, I'm trying to hold it down. All the memories is coming back to me. So I had no choice but to leave my son. And 2009, I remember it so well. I saw an ad in one of the leading newspapers in the Philippines, and it says, "Work in America, earn big." Catchy, right? Who wouldn't want that? So I applied, like the rest of the applicants, and I was so ready to shell out a lot of money. Why? Because it is America. You know, who wouldn't want to be here? Everyone wants to come here. This is like the land of opportunity, the land of dreams. So I did. I did shell out a lot of money just to come here. So we applied for what you call the H-2B seasonal workers visa. All legal documentations and interviews and whatnot. We worked for a prestigious hotel in Florida. Everything started great, you know. We were in Miami, Florida. The hotel was paying us $16 an hour, but the agency was only giving us $6 out of the $16. No complaint. I never complained. Why? Because to me, $6 times the long hours that we were working for the hotel is like multiply it to Philippine peso is a huge amount of money. So never complained. I never complained. And at the back of my head, hey, I'm in America, you know? So I never complained. Up until one red flag after the other. And we found out visas were no longer being renewed. And then we would find out some of the people that worked for the agency would be captured, and they are all sentenced for deportation. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. And workers from the agency started doing their own stuff. Like they would call their relatives from different states and ask for help. And I had none. I didn't have any family here. All my family is back in the Philippines. So in my head, what am I to do? And it was so weird when we found out that he was no longer renewing our visas, when in fact, he would ask an amount of money taken out of our paycheck, which is apparently for renewal of visas, which we just found out that he was just pocketing all the money. And then another red flag came where houses were being shut down because he was no longer paying the rent. And we were forced to live in like a 2 to 3 bedroom apartment with 15 people. And we were like, the living room was converted into like a dorm room. No privacy, mixed between men and women. No, we actually have privacy. It's a flat sheet divided between men and women. And in my head, what the hell am I doing here? You know, at least I have a house in the Philippines. And when you're in that situation, all you can think about is, I'm out. I'm done. I remember this so clearly. I was standing in front of the beautiful Miami beach. I was screaming at the top of my lungs because I don't know what to do. The agency left us, like, go on your own, you know? And I almost literally swam 9,300 miles of open sea just for me to go home. And I was telling my family, I was telling my mom, I want to go home because nothing's happening here. You know, and then the hotel found out about the the illegal business of the agency. And so the hotel dropped us, dropped the agency, meaning hundreds of Filipino workers out of work. And he couldn't care less. He couldn't care less. And I was like, what am I gonna do? I am so scared. And that's when I found out I can't go home. It sinked into me that I can't go home because I owe more than $6,000 from loan sharks, remember, just to come here. And at that time, my mom was already very ill. She needed her bypass surgery. So I had no choice but to stay. Leaving us to do odd jobs, paying us $3 for cleaning, but still in my head, hey, it's dollars. I have to be positive about the situation. Up until we found out that some of the people from the agency who was also in New York, they've heard about like a Filipino organized community where they help distressed migrant workers. And in my head, I should go there because for me, it was like a safe comfort for me to go there because they would help Filipino migrants who are in distress like me. And so with the last of my money, I booked a ticket. It was so heartbreaking because that ticket could have been sent to the Philippines, but I had no choice. With less than $100 in my pocket, we traveled here to New Jersey, to New York. And that's where we seek legal immigration counsel. And these Filipino organized communities helped us so dear that we learned how to stand up and fight for our rights. And it was hard because as long as I was fighting, I know my son was growing up without his mom. It's a toggle between should I stop and just go home? But in my head, no, because I don't want him to see his mom as someone who gave up. I want him to see his mom as a fighter. I'm sorry. And those people right there are just amongst the people who helped us. And I am such honored right now to stand in front of you to share this story that is like embedded deep in my heart. And as we filed that case, we won. And I was surprised that the case that was filed, they called it human trafficking. In my head, human trafficking, because it was just like a very vague decision, topic for me where I thought it was just about sex trafficking, child trafficking, and I never expected that we would fall under human trafficking case. And we won. We were awarded what they call T-visa. The agency in the Philippines, both Philippines and here in Florida, was shut down. But unfortunately, the owner of the agency wasn't caught. He's still in hiding somewhere. And in my head, it's okay. I know he's a very old man right now. God knows. I don't know. I hope he's still alive. But for me, it's my sweet victory, at least, that I get to share this kind of story, that hopefully someone out there, who is in the same situation as we were before would be inspired to stand up and speak up and fight for what is right, because this is America, And I am honored to stand in front of you as a mom, as a Filipino, as a U.S. migrant, and as a human trafficking survivor. Thank you.
It's going to be a hard act to follow. I think it's the second time I heard the story and I sort of forgot how intense it is. And you really communicated that to everyone here, which is hard to do. And just wanted to say that. Thank you. And is there someone from the organization here that, and so maybe later you can have her come up and answer some questions. Okay, our second presenter is Carmine Percantino. He's a first-generation American. He was born in Monte San Giacomo in the province of Salerno in the Campania region of Italy. Does that sound right? Okay, good. He and his family moved to Hoboken in 1965. The Percantinos joined a large community of relocated San Giacomoites who created the cultural and religious anchors of their homeland. Carmine learned how to build a presepio or a Christmas creche from a member of his large extended family, and also sustained his roots in San Giacomo as a member and for many years president of Hoboken's Monte San Giacomo Club. Please welcome Carmine Percantino.
Hello, everybody. It's going to be a hard act to follow, but no, but that was a wonderful story, and that's touched my heart. I want to thank Bob, Matt Caranante. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate that. It's when Bob first approached me, he said, "Carmine, but I said, but Bob, I don't really have a story." I said, I was 10 months when I came here. It's not like I packed my bags and said, "Hey, goodbye to my friends and family. I'm out of Italy. I'm going to the United States. I can't take this anymore." So it wasn't like that. My story starts with the roots of my grandfather. My grandfather was Matteo Camerano. It's hard to see this picture, but this is a picture of him when he was in the Italian Army in World War I. You can show it if you like. In 1881, he was born in Italy, and as a young man, 20 years old, traveled to the United States for the first time in 1901. These records were found on Ellis Island. He did the whole, quarantine, inoculation, did the whole thing, and he came here hoping to start a new life, and like everyone else, who was traveling to the United States at that time. He immigrated to Hoboken after he was deemed fit to enter the United States after all. But there was a small, very tight-knit community of Monte San Giacomo's people from Salerno who had immigrated here already. And you always look for your familiar places, familiar people to feel like home, right? That's what you would think. And so when he came here, they already, had a job for him. People that he knew already helped him find a place to live. And for 2 years, he stayed and decided that this was going to be the place that he wanted to live. So in 1903, sometime, he traveled back to Italy. The only thing I guess that was missing from his life was his wife, was a wife. So he says, if I'm going to come here, I'm going to bring somebody back from the old country and bring her here. So he did. He went back in 1903, 1904. He came back again. They did the Ellis Island thing again. And he came back to Hoboken one more time. And the whole thing. They got more jobs. He was here for 10 years. And then had 3 children. He had his first daughter, Maria, his second daughter, Nunziata, and his third daughter, Antoinette. For 10 years, they lived happy in the United States. Then tragedy struck a little bit, and his first wife died. So, he had to travel back to Italy and find a way to either get another wife, come back to the United States, do something for his children, because obviously his children he couldn't work and raise his children. Unknown to him, 1914 started World War I. So no sooner did he get to Italy, they drafted him. That was it. He's like, okay, now what? Right? So he's like, Italy didn't enter the war till 1915, but they were going to be in it for the long haul, and he knew it. So he somehow managed to get another wife between being drafted and coming home for leave, and just someone to secure to take care of his kids, obviously. He went back, had to fight. During this time, his second wife took ill. Bad luck. But there was a woman that was sent to help take care of the children. This brings back my grandmother. My grandmother, unbeknownst to us at the time, was Concetta Biancamano. So she now was helping to take care of these kids. And after his wife died, his second wife died, they kind of became hers. Right, so that's where that goes. After 1918, the World War ended finally, and he comes back, and so now he's faced with this decision of like, I got to get another wife again. What am I going to do? He always had plans to come back to America, and everybody there was like, oh, Concetta, he's a good man. He's like, 16 years older, but he's a good man. He has land, he's established, he has property. You can live a good life with him here. And my grandmother really didn't want to come to America. She still had her whole family there. She was happy to raise his children and start a new life with him, but not come here. So they got married. And from 1918 to 1938, they had like 8 more surviving children. They had, I think, not 10, but 2 passed. And so he was busy. He kept himself busy with his young wife, as you can probably imagine. So they were good times. And getting back to his first children, his first daughter, Maria, she got married, and she decided to marry and stay in Italy, stay in Monte San Giacomo. She was happy to live there. She had started her own family. And his second daughter, Annunziata, married at the age of 17, then came back to the United States because she was an American citizen. So that's how the immigration process started for us. She came with her husband and arrived here in 1927. She was 17 at the time, I think, when she was married and came to the United States. And again, moved to Hoboken because that's where everybody was. And again, everybody helped them out, which is wonderful. And then, of course, the Great Depression hit in 1929, which was in good times. Then her youngest sister, Antoinette, also got married and followed the same suit. She came to the Hoboken. She wanted to live in America. Italy wasn't doing all that great either. They were still recovering from World War I. It never really did. It kind of did, but in a very slow way. People were living off the land. They were happy. Nobody was starving. They had land. They had cattle. They had sheep. They had, whatever they needed. But life wasn't great. Then World War II. Italy, forget about it. Completely devastated. By that time, America was doing great. So they started saying, hey, we need to get you back here. And that's what they did. So 1949, they sent for my grandfather. And I'm not sure if it took a while to get him here, but I'm not sure if it was before they started paperwork, before or after the war, but 1949, my grandfather finally came. Then they called for his wife, Concetta, and she was able to take her 3 children because they were under 16, or I'm sorry, under 18. It was Anna, Josephine, and Rosario. And that's them. So when he came in 1951, from there, it became a thing. Now we were going to call everybody. We're not leaving anybody behind anymore because things were not good. They were poor in a village. And again, they had their good times. And when they recalled to me stories, it didn't seem so bad because they enjoyed life to the fullest. But here was the dream. This country was the place to be. So they all started calling everybody over one by one, which was a great thing. It was beautiful. And in 1955, I had the correspondence that I forgot to bring with me, but in 1955, they petitioned for my mother to come to the United States. It took 10 years. For those papers to go through. By that time, my mother had my brother Luigi, he was the oldest, my sister Rosa, my sister Connie, and me. I was only a little baby. But those papers came a little late because my father passed. And so my mother had to make this journey with 4 children. Not an easy thing to do for her. But the seats were booked, the ship had to sail, and we had to come. And this is where my story begins. So, it took a while to get here, but this is where we are. So this is my immigration story from here on in. And, we came on a beautiful ship. We came on the Leonardo da Vinci. This ship was built after the Andrea Doria sank because it was to take its place. And it had all modern amenities. I mean, when I look at pictures of the ship, you can Google it. It had first class, cabin class, and third class. We of course had third class because, what else could we afford? But it was a beautiful ship. It had, like I said, all modern amenities. My sister, Rosa, she describes it as the room that we were in, the little cabin. It had the bunk bed here, little porthole. And you had a private bathroom, which was a plus. So we had one of the better ones. And a little wash sink to wash yourself up. Now, my mother would not let any of us out of her sight. We would go up to the breakfast, up to lunch, up to dinner, right back in the room. That was it. She wasn't letting anybody go anywhere near the top deck, or God forbid, if somebody should fall off. And all the people that were like in the cabins were like, come and say, hey, senora, but why, let's go. I'll help you with the kids. Take them upstairs. But she wasn't there for the first few days. She wouldn't have no way. No one was taking my kids anywhere. Finally, the shop steward, the steward, the captain steward, whoever came down and said, senora, you have to come up deck. You can't just stay down here. This is not good. So she finally agreed. Well, let me tell you, I don't know how she did it, where she even got it, but she literally took a rope and kind of circled the rope around all 3 kids, me in her arm. And that's how we were led to the top deck. I mean, it was like, people were like, what are you doing, lady? But I can only imagine the things that must have gone through her mind. Like, oh my God, they're going to fall overboard. Something's going to happen. So those were the last few days of the trip. We finally got daylight and sunlight in our faces, and we finally got to enjoy some of the boat. But that was a 7-day trip, almost 7 to 8 days, I think it was, that we got there. We finally landed in New York Harbor. And, there was tons of family there to greet us. My God, it was like, oh, you thought the president was coming home. But they all took us, and where'd they take us? Right to Hoboken. We were right here. They had an apartment ready for my mother. And it was like, oh, we got your apartment. You're going to start working over here, and you're going to do this. And the kids are going to come, and they're going to go to school starting in September. We landed on June 3rd in New York Harbor and came to Hoboken. And I got to tell you, for my mother, it must have been really hard because I know she cried herself to sleep. They told me that she cried herself to sleep for many months. Everything she knew, she left. So it was a little hard, I can imagine. But my sister, my brother, my other sister, hey, they were getting new clothes. They were getting shoes. They were getting treated like they were royalty all of a sudden. They had so many things that they didn't have in Italy. They were loving this. They were like, this is crazy. We love this stuff. So, they were all excited. And me, I was just in somebody's house, and I was saying, well, you got a job, you got clothes, you're going to go to school. Who's going to feed me? You know, because I was 10 months and about 30 pounds. You should have seen me. I was big, but that's pretty much my story of immigration. So again, not by choice, but I'm so happy to be here. I couldn't, be happy to be an American and to live in this country. I mean, Italy gave me life, but this country, it allowed me to live it. And that means a lot. My community in this town did a lot. They established so much. They actually bought a piece of land, and it was a candy store at the time. And I guess in the early 1900s, there wasn't that many churches in Hoboken. And, there was a lot of animosity towards Italians. The Germans had the German side, the Irish had the Irish side, and the Italians and the African American. It was a very segregated town in many ways. They worked together. They had to share the town, but we weren't allowed certain places from what people told us, back in the day. Not us per se, because we came in the 60s, but Hoboken was a pretty tough town. So they bought this piece of land on Jefferson Street, and there was a candy store there. And they made it into a makeshift church, and it was called St. Anne's. With the agreements of the diocese, they had put all the nickels together, and they with the rest of the Italian communities in Hoboken, they actually had that church built. But it had to have that church built in a sense that it had to resemble the church in Italy. So you'll see the bell tower. It's the same thing. Those steps leading up are to represent the 76 steps that it takes to get to the one in Italy, San Giacomo, which is like a village. It's all the way up there, and it's a pretty big hike. But they did that. They formed a club. There was a picture there before with all these people and a group of people. That was 409 Jefferson Street, right there. That was 409 Jefferson Street. This is one of the St. Anne's feasts in Italy, but this is again the club. This is the first club that was actually recognized in 1935 by the state of New Jersey. They have formed this club because it was for the men to commune after work. It was they called it a dopo lavoro. It was an after work place to go. And all the men would go play cards and do the things that they did in Italy. And everything that they did here in Hoboken was to mimic everything that they had there. That's what they did. That's what this community did. And they were a very big and very once populous community in Hoboken. Now, everybody got married, everybody's kids left. They moved here, everybody moved there. Not that many of us anymore, but there was still a stronghold of San Giacomese here. We do have a club. It's on 5th and Madison. I don't know if you've ever passed by. It's called the Monte San Giacomo Club. And I had the honor of being president for 6 years, actually 8 years. But it still exists. We started St. Anne's Feast. It was called a bazaar when we started. It wasn't even called a feast, and it was only 2 days originally. It was the Monte San Giacomo was the 25th, and St. Anne's is the 26th. And that's how it went for a long time. But we were responsible for a lot of stuff that happened in this town, and I'm very proud of that. This guy is my brother-in-law's father. Good man. And he was like an uncle to me. I mean, he was an uncle, basically. And he taught me a lot, like as far as doing. I used to love Christmas. Christmas was like my thing, and it was my favorite time of the year. And I always used to admire these little Christmas creches that they used to build. But this guy, boy, he used to be so intricate. He would make like paper mountains, and they really look like mountains. And it's just, as a kid, you're like, wow, you just want to play with it, It was just something that I loved. That's who this guy is. His name is Angelo Accetta, and I'll never forget him. So that's me. And that's what he told me to do. So there are a couple of videos I just want to show you because I think they're hilarious. When Italians come to this country, they become part of the country. They become part of the culture, the American culture. But it always has to have that Italian flavor, and it doesn't just go like, Thanksgiving, for instance. I don't know if you want to bring that up. That's okay. But Thanksgiving is an American holiday. But we're happy to celebrate it. We're happy to be a part of it. It becomes ours now. But we do it our way. So, we have antipasta, we have the pasta, we have everything. And then we have the turkey. The turkey is more for show. But there was a video that you can't come up. Oh, I'm sorry. It's okay. There was a video there, and it was really funny because it shows the poor turkey didn't stand a chance. I mean, it just like, you see people just tearing at it and ripping at it. And it's like, my God, they would think we were savages. Yeah. And there was also another video I would have liked to show you. It was a Christmas video that it was, we lived in a row house, and it was, I can't tell you how many people you fit in a row house when you want to. And the first place we lived, I just want to mention one more thing. The first place we lived was 710 Willow. If you know 710 Willow, it's two buildings. It's two 10-family buildings, 708, 710, 712, 714. We lived in 710 Willow along with 19 other families. There was only one Irish family, and they were the landlords. And there was 20 families, but every one of them was from my town. If you can imagine this, if you can imagine the holidays, oh my God! I was a baby. I was 4 years old, but I remember like a dream. But I do remember a lot of it, and I'll tell you, it was the most magnificent times. It really was. I remember, how Hoboken was. The milkman used to come to the door with the little metal case with the little bottles, and you ordered how many bottles you wanted. It was a time when people still delivered bread to you. Everything we did was a little different than everybody else. It was just the Italian way, and that's pretty much my story.
Okay.
I have a question.
So there'll be questions at the end, huh?
We have a question. Eric Hammer from Facebook is wondering, what is the most popular game activity played at the club?
Usually, it was cards, either some kind of a briscola game or something called Scopa or briscola. Those are the main card games that they played.
Okay, Carmine. So I sort of forgot that when we were putting this together, I said one of the requirements is you had to cry. So 2 out of 3, not bad, not bad. Okay. And I didn't realize you were going to go back to Ellis Island. I thought we were going to start in 1955. Yes, definitely. So I'm going to introduce our next speaker. So we have Evie Gutierrez, and she was born in Hoboken. She's the grandchildren of El Salvadorian and Dominican immigrants. And she did a special thing. She decided she really wanted to share food. And so she's going to introduce how important the pupusa food, which I had it for the first time. I loved it. And she's here with her Aunt Gloria, who may come up after Evie talks a bit. And I'm just kind of curious, how many Gutierrez's do we have in the back? One. Okay. Yes. Yeah. I knew we had a lot, and that's a great family. If I can't wait to be out there and meet a Gutierrez and just say, I know your people. Anyway, so the pupusas are an important part of Salvadorian culture. And originally, Evie was going to present with her brother Peter, but he has escaped Hoboken, from what I understand. And Evie said the show goes on. So come on up to the podium, and we have some visuals to back up the pupusa culture, shall we say. Here we go, Evie.
Hey guys. So I'll be talking about pretty much my Salvadorian side of the family more than my Dominican side of the family today. So to start this off, it's very similar to Carmine. how my roots start from my grandparents, right? From my dad's side of the family, my grandfather, Pedro Gutierrez, he came here from El Salvador, and he came around the 1940s or 50s. He came here through the militia. He was escaping a war, a civil war back in El Salvador. You can imagine how that was during that time. It was very violent, a lot of conflict, a lot of animosity towards Central Americans. And he came here to live a better life and to give opportunity to his family and to his future generation here in America. So here we have in this picture, we have one of his cousins, one of his relatives on the left, Tia Luz, and one of her cousins as well to the right. They're making pupusas, which is a very popular dish in El Salvador. Fun fact, my grandmother, Pedro's wife, Mama Calota or Maria Gutierrez, she was born and raised in El Salvador as well. And growing up, she explained to me the story how everyone in the community, everyone in the like village that she lived in, came together, and they, in this big pot, they made fresh made pupusas at the age of like 5 with all their relatives up to 30 plus, and they were making every single weekend to cook for the whole village to make a couple cents per day to provide for their family. And that's how that went. And so this is a common dish not only to our culture but to our family. We make this probably once a month to celebrate somebody's birthday because we have a huge family. And that's how that goes. And this is just pupusa, more pupusa pictures. Peter made this, by the way, this presentation. So if I had the opportunity to, I would have altered some things. But you're just gonna get a whole slideshow, a little bit of just pupusas. Waiting till it reaches to the family members. But going back to Pedro, I have some notes here because Peter knows more of like his entire story. He did like an immigration story on him. So I'll just be reading what Peter sent to me so that I could read it here. So born April 24th in 1933 in El Salvador, Pedro Gutierrez, Pedro Justino Gutierrez Chavez, on his family's cattle ranch. It's roughly an hour from San Salvador, which is the capital. Pedro was raised there. He was raised among pigs, cows, horses, and bulls. Throughout the 1930s and 1940s, El Salvador was mainly self-sufficient in terms of its fruits and its vegetables. As you can tell from that picture right there, that says it all. No. Yeah, I'm just giving background on my grandfather, not to confuse anybody. So during the 1930s and 40s, El Salvador was pretty self-sufficient in terms of having a pretty hefty amount of agricultural-based products, and that's how their economy pretty much ran. Pedro grew up on a ranch again that grazed cattle, milked cows, weaned pigs, and hogs and corn. From beans to tomatoes to avocados to mangoes. He spent 40 years waking up before dawn, plowing, seeding, and wrestling bulls. He also served in the armed forces of El Salvador, but it was not your average military paired with basic armed training. He was a census provider, a notary public, a medic, and a policeman. He described El Salvador through the 1950s and 60s as a time of fun and enjoyment. Going back to how Carmen was mentioning, even though these people grew up in probably the worst states a human could possibly ever endure, they took it as a different view. They made it seem to be fun and enjoyable, when in reality, an average American wouldn't probably survive just a day in their shoes. Admiring American music and culture via radio stations and TV in the capital. Every year, similar to Mardi Gras, El Salvador would host week-long festivals that embrace nature, adolescence, independence, and food. In the 1980s to 1992, the El Salvador Civil War was fought by the central government and socialists, the guerrillas, they call them, paramilitants that sought out a radical left-wing revolution. When questioned about the war, my grandfather cried as he lost a lot of friends and family members. Years before the war, he lived with a target on his back for working on behalf of the government. Never seen combat since he left in 1979. This is motivation to leave, and he did so on a tourist visa. Landing in Newark Airport in 1979, Pedro was greeted by his parents, who came in 1964, headed to Hoboken, New Jersey. Living in 322 Madison Street, Pedro worked on the pier for La Caguana, Maxwell Coffee, and Lipton Tea, pretty much picking up any job that anyone can get, being what they call the busboy, starting from the very bottom to working his way to the top. Hoboken was considered the armpit of New Jersey in the 1980s. The crime was high. Buildings were either on fire or crumbling, and fights would break out constantly. Working on the docks, Pedro experienced racism. However, he overcame this through his hard work and his resilience. This leads me to how Pedro came, and he had, let's say, a lot of kids, 9 with his wife, Maria Gutierrez, 9 children, and it took him a course of around 10 years to petition each and every single one of them to come. Francisco Gutierrez, who's in the middle over there, my Uncle Frank, he came here and he had a motivation to pursue higher education, and he worked and he took little jobs, and he also went to the high school of Hoboken High School. He graduated and he went to Stevens Institute of Technology, which is here in Hoboken as well, and he graduated with his degree, his bachelor's of engineering and computer engineering. And he was able to, the phrase is, make it out, right? Make it out of the mud. So he was able to overcome a lot of different obstacles and basically fight for his family's freedom and establish opportunity that has never been sought before in the family. And this is just a picture of all of us, like during one of the holiday seasons. This is my cousin Hannah to the left, my Uncle Eric, his 2 sons, my Aunt Gloria, her husband Luis, their son Luis Jr., and then that's me. Going back to how Frank was able to go through Stevens and whatnot, he was a part of this program called the STEP program, which is Stevens Technical Enrichment Program. And it basically bridges low income and minority students together to come together and build a community on Stevens. As many would know, if you would know about Stevens, it was predominantly a white school during what you imagine would be the 1980s. I believe there was not that many Hispanic populations on campus, and STEP was a way to bridge everyone together who was who didn't feel like they had a place there at Stevens. And luckily, I'm also a part of the STEP program, and I also go to Stevens now. And I feel like STEP really has a name for its own on Stevens campus, but it also has a special place in my heart, as it allows me to have a ton of connections, a lot of friendships that I've built from it. You learn a lot of great things from alumni. There's not just people that you would think would just be all people that came from money or all people that have had opportunities since birth. It's really, you learn a lot from people who've come from many different places and have also been through similar things, if not worse, getting here to America to seek what they call is the American dream. I think there's more pictures of stuff. So this is one of our very few reunions that come about like every decade or so. This was one back in around 2010, I want to say. This is just like probably 1/10 of what the family actually looks like. Um, so these are all my aunts and uncles, direct aunts and uncles. Um, my grandmother, Mama Carlota, is to the left. She's wearing a floral skirt. Yeah. And that's pretty much our family and our story. 1/10. And that's Pedro, my grandfather in the middle. He's waving. Yeah. Is there any more pictures after that?
The other one was blurry.
Oh, it was blurry?
It was
Just more pupusas.
seriously blurry. No,
Yeah.
that would be it.
Thank you.
We do have a question though. From
Sure.
again from Eric on Facebook.
Okay.
He asks questions.
Eric.
He's a very good question asker. Do you have any insight as to why Hoboken?
As to why my family chose Hoboken?
Yeah.
I believe my grandfather came here because he knew that there was more opportunities here. He also, I think, had a friend here that was able to like get him a very easy job, which was just being a busboy, picking up garbage and whatnot, metals, scraps, doing very basic things like that. He was able to do that and try and establish more connections to provide more for his family and whatnot. Yeah. No problem.
One more time. Okay. So did you cry? I think you did. I think you did. You did. Almost. I don't know. I took a picture. I'm going to blow it up and see. I think it was pretty cool that Peter still got in there with your notes. And let's see, Gloria, you should come up for a second. A lot of people met you when you're making the pupusas. Come on up. Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Ana Gloria, and I'm the second oldest from Pedro and Maria Gutierrez. And I really thank God that we got to here this evening. We are longtime visitors in Hoboken. We reside when we came to this country back in the 80s, beginning of 80s, in Connecticut. That's where we came from, El Salvador. And later on in the 90s, we moved to New York State, upstate in the Mid-Hudson Valley. And that's where we've been for the last 30 years. We raised 3 children over there, but Hoboken was always a place for us to visit because of my parents, because of my aunts and my grandparents who lived here until they passed away back in my grandfather passed away in 1997, and my grandmother passed away in 2007, 10 years later, almost over 100 years. But they lived here for a long, long time, and they were the reason for us to visit Hoboken. And they used to go to church or worship at First and Jackson Street. And that's where we are for the past like 16 years worshiping over there too. So every week, Tuesday, Thursdays, and Sundays, we are in Hoboken from upstate New York. It takes us an hour and a half to travel, 3 hours back and forth, but we are more than happy to do that. And when I heard of Bob getting us over here today to visit with my niece, because Peter, we miss Peter. Peter is the one that motivates us a lot. And so I happily said, yes, I'll be more than happy to go. So I asked for half a day on my job and to make it over here. And I told my coworkers, I am having an event and I'm not going to be here for the afternoon. So they said, just bring us pupusas. So what I did, thank you. So what I did is for the large gatherings that we have, we always, like Evie said, we like every month we get together and it's eating, eating, eating. So my mom cooks a lot. Her favorite pollo guisado, which is a stewed chicken. That's her favorite one and everybody's favorite, right, Evie? Evie comes from school directly to my mom's just for her food too. So I bought myself this big griller so we can make the pupusas. I love making my pupusas. So we don't make it for business, we make it for the family to eat and everybody enjoys it. So, and I also want to thank my husband because he is my right hand. He is with me everywhere. I just have to say, oh, we're going to do pupusas here. And he said, okay. When I saw that grill, I said, I want that grill. That's what I need. So he said, okay, that's what you got. And he got it for me. So thank you very much, Bob, for inviting us over here. And thank everybody too for having us over here. You have a lovely evening.
So this was the lovely evening. Thank you, everyone. This is like far better than I imagined. And it's really interesting to hear how Evie will say, oh yeah, my story is like Carmine, which I don't really believe, but she did say that. Yeah, definitely. There's similarities. And, you know, the idea we have more in common than we're different. And, you know, a lot of tough things, but you sort of fought it to, you know, earn it. You earned it and really fought for it. So that's pretty, I was trying to cry. I didn't cry. So anyway, so I know we went over a little bit. We could probably take like 3 questions if there are 3 questions. We have a microphone. Anyone in the back want to ask a question? But maybe they're just pupusa'd out. I don't know. Okay. So, yes, go ahead.
What part of Italy did you come from? It's the province of Salerno. Monte San Giacomo is a little town in the province of Salerno. It's kind of equal to the region. It's Regione Campania. It's Regione Campania, which is right part of Naples. On the Naples, it's that whole region there.
And that's where many townspeople were also from that section of Italy.
From that actual town, everybody that immigrated here, most of us were from Monte San Giacomo. Of course, there are people from regions of Puglia, which is Molfetta. You know, there you go, the Pugliese. So there's a lot of Pugliese people here. Bari, you know, that area. There's a lot of Caggiano people, which is from my area. It's like the town over from Monte San Giacomo. Italy is so funny. I mean, you can go literally a mile and you'll have a different dialect from somebody else. It's the funniest thing. It's like, I mean, you can understand each other, obviously, but the words are said differently. And it's that many dialects. But when we came here, the reason for us to come here for that was because you want that familiar. You want to feel like you're still home. You're in a new country. You don't know anybody. It must be the scariest thing, you know, for somebody to come here and say, I don't know anyone. I don't speak the language. I don't know their customs. How am I going to get by? And when you have that familiar group of people to lead you, that's an amazing thing. That's an amazing thing.
Were the people in northern Italy, were they a little bit more prosperous?
I think northern Italy didn't suffer nearly as much as southern Italy. Southern Italy, even still today, is still pretty much abandoned. I think by its government. It's not industrial at all. In my town now, I mean, there used to be a population of maybe 4,000. They're down to maybe 1,000 people.
Wow.
So because nobody's really raising children there, most of them are immigrating to Germany, Switzerland. That's where the work is. So the people that won't go to work in northern Italy, they're gonna go out, you know, come here or go elsewhere. So
They used to say that there were more people living in Hoboken from Monte San Giacomo
I think that's
than
true.
in San Giacomo.
I think if you count all the populations and everybody who had children, I think we probably surpassed that number. Absolutely.
Another question?
I said that. Yeah, I came here on June 3rd, 1965. The Leonardo da Vinci.
So my mother came from in 1957. So the difference is it took them 30 days to get there.
Really?
So when you said 7 days, I was shocked. And
Well-
when you said it was a nice boat, I was shocked.
Well, it was.
So good for you.
Well, it was a steam ocean liner, but it was the newest. It was one of the newest innovations, and it was again. It replaced the Angiodori after she sank. I mean, they had heated pools. That's so and I think the ship, if I'm not mistaken, does about 29 to 30 knots, which is pretty fast. So
Okay, should we call it a night? Okay, thank you, Gina. Thank you, Matthew. We'd love to do this next week. We'd love to do it again. Oh, we have one more comment, and this is a Gutierrez. I need to warn you. Come up.
I don't know. I just want to say some word for my dad, my mom. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Do you want to have them come up? Are they here?
Yeah, I just want to chill. I'm sorry. I just want to appreciate it for everybody to support for this meeting. Thank you so much to you, and we're happy to do this because you always support my daughter, my son Peter too.
Yeah.
And I appreciate so much. I can't wait to tell you thanks so much. How much to do for my kid, and I want to say thanks to my parents. I'm a grandparent because that's what he get here. To my grandparent, my father, and my sister, her husband, brother here too. So we're so proud, because I'm so grateful to God, because Steven, it's just, thank you again, Bob, for the support for my kid and everybody, and my family, Appreciate so much. Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
There was a tear in his eye. Anyway. Okay. Oh, Carmine, last word. Okay. Good.
Trixie, I know you told the whole story. It was an amazing turn of events that led you here. It's an inspiring story for sure. I just want to ask, when you got together with the lawyer, what exactly, just can you get more into that detail? Like, what did they do exactly?
You mean like when we filed for the case? Actually, it was like it was in sports. It was actually very mind-blowing for him. He found out that this was the stuff that the agency was doing to us. And they call it modern day slavery. Because he was just surprised that it was that he was able to get permits and everything. Because like what I told you guys earlier, we came in the United States legally, and it was here when he was doing all that stuff. So for him, it was a mind-blowing case. That's why he was like so inspired to get the case, and he said that this case has a case and it's gonna win, and we did. So
Okay, so that was it. That's the final comment. No more tears. Thank you so much for coming, and this will be archived. You can see it on YouTube, and this will live on. So I think we have a great record of 3 pretty interesting stories, and I learned a lot, and I got to eat my first pupusa. Nighty-o, thank you.